Hey party people, welcome to the second parter of paint overspray. And what you see here is quite an arsenal of possibilities, and I'm going to make this even more complex for you. I'm going to actually add two more parts of the equation for you because we're going to take a deep dive down this wormhole. I'm going to try to answer the questions for you, help you emerge out of that rabbit hole with greater understanding, greater awareness, and the ability to move forward so that you can get better results in your world. Now, if you did not have the fortune of watching episode number 1, it's not a requirement because I'm going to repeat. And that is simply, how do you tell if you have paint overspray in your car? You can reduce it down to 3 ways. See it, hear it, feel it. What do I mean by that? Let me explain for you. I've always said that you should see your paint, not hear it. What do I mean by that? Well, check this out. Hear this? Hear this? Notice the difference? Wanted, unwanted. No overspray, paint overspray. Because this is a white car and it's got white overspray on it, I cannot see it. I can only feel it. Feels like a texture, and I can hear it. If this was a dark car with white overspray on it, I could do all 3. I could see it, I could hear it, I could feel it. Point is how do you remove it? Well, the simple answer is the clay bar. Now, the clay bar is not the only answer. It's what I would call under the heading of mechanical removal. So you've got a clay bar, you've got a clay mitt, detailing mitt, wash mitt slash clay mitt. So there's different terms for it: a decontaminating clay, detailing clay. There's many things they call it. The point is this is my first go-to. Why? Because not only will it likely remove the overspray off your car, but it will remove the bonded surface contaminants that are unwanted. If you don't remove them, you have to accept that you're going to be waxing and polishing over them. So washing and polishing is not necessarily going to remove it, just like waxing is not necessarily going to remove it. Therefore, you have to bust out something and deliberately remove the overspray. What you also need to know is that your car is made up of many, many types of materials. You've got paint, you've got glass, you've got plastic, you may have chrome. I know you've got some type of window gasket. It could be a rubber window gasket. It could be a rubber / plastic window gasket. It might be smooth, it might be textured. You've got intricate details like the wheels, you've got tires. So you've got a lot of components and you've got a lot of materials. So the clay bar is safe for basically any material that you can actually use a clay lube, and you don't have to overthink the clay lube. You just need some kind of lubricant. It could be as simple as tap water in order to rub this back and forth across the surface, because what you're doing is you're rubbing it back and forth across that paint overspray. It will shear it down so that you now have a smooth surface. The overspray has been removed by the clay bar. So glass, in this case, I even have carbon fiber on the roof, other components like the side mirrors, that's all clear coated. It's smooth. I can rub it back and forth. The paint, the glass, it will be fine. You do need to check your results as you're working. Test an area if you're unsure or inexperienced and see what kind of results you're getting. See how hard you have to rub or how many times you have to rub back and forth in order to remove that paint overspray. Okay, party people, here we have the front windshield of my car. This entire car was coated with paint overspray. You know why? Because it's floating in the air and it literally will attach to every part of your surface, including your front windshield. Here I have my front windshield. Why do I have this line? And I'm pretty sure it's going to show up. See this line that comes down the windshield? Why is that there? Well, because the wiper blades, as they move back and forth, they have actually worn off the paint overspray. But all along here, I have overspray. So if I'm sitting inside my car, I will be able to see it. So this is one of the ways you can see it. But glass is unique because I can see through the glass. What I want to do to start with is freak a few of you out. Actually, I'll freak a lot of you out. Now, often, because I said that you can chemically remove some overspray, you just need to start with the understanding that not all overspray is created equally. endless types of paint, endless types of stuff that you may think is paint, but you really just don't know. You just know that you don't want it on your paint. You don't want it on your glass, you don't want it on the trim. So there's chemicals that actually will remove or break down certain types of paint. Generally, it's just going to be latex paint. So you could start with rubbing alcohol. Now I know a lot of you will freak out like, oh my gosh, he's really going to use rubbing alcohol in his paint? Yes, I am. So I can test it and I can determine pretty quickly if it's going to break down that paint overspray by the way it feels, the way it sounds, and then I check the results and it's either gone or it's not. But wait, there's more. There's this stuff called acetone. And now a little disclaimer. Not all acetone is created equal. I live in California. As a rule, everything has been dumbed down or watered down in this state. It's called overregulation. So the acetone that I buy here may not be the acetone that you attempt to use in your world. So you need to verify. I just have never had a problem with it. What you're looking for in an unwanted way is discoloration or the softening of materials, because acetone will begin to break down, for example, certain types of rubbers or plastics. So you need to verify in an inconspicuous area before you go in level 10 or go in hot. So I'm going to check, because my car has tons of overspray on it, and I'm going to check a little area with the acetone in an area. Hear that? So I got some acetone, I'll reapply it, and I want to see if it will break it down. And I rub, and I already, like I said, I've never had a problem with acetone, but that's me in my world. So, hear that? Clearly it did not work. Therefore, I need to default to a mechanical way of removing the overspray off of my paint. So the two basic ways when it comes to your car paint is what's called a detailing clay mitt. They come in many versions, many colors. Essentially what it is a rubberized, they'll call it polymer, which is just like a glorified name for a rubber material that acts just like a clay bar, meaning it has the ability to shear away those bonded surface contaminants or paint overspray. So there's many versions in which to use. I'm actually going to bust out this one that I've used many, many times, and I'm going to bust out this clay bar, which I don't even know who makes it because I have so many clay bars laying around. Here I have my CSI waterless formulation. I have a separate video on that. Why do you need a clay lube? Well, because these things are tacky. They're sticky. They're not going to naturally rub back and forth on your paint unless you've got some kind of lubricant that allows you to rub it back and forth on your paint. So when you first do it, it will be disturbing. Why? Because it's going to make a bunch of noise like that. But the more you rub, two things are going to happen. One, it's going to become progressively easier to rub as you work that overspray off your paint. Secondly, it's going to diminish in noise because you're now removing it. So those little paint particles are going to create some friction, which will then create some noise. So less friction, less noise, wanted results. So you never know, because your world will truly be unique. You don't know how much you're going to have to rub. You don't know how many times you're going to have to go back and forth. So this is the simple answer, is just a clay bar. Now I know many guys prefer these because at a level they are more user-friendly, as in they mold very nicely to your hand. They rinse away easily, clean away easily, call it what you want. But in my opinion, as a rule, I feel that these tend to abrade your paint faster and easier than a clay bar will. But that's my opinion. You can verify the results in your own world. Point is on any light colored car, you don't have to overthink it. Everything comes with trade-offs in life. So the trade-off in this moment is the more you rub, the harder you rub, regardless of your choice of a clay mitt or a clay bar. And regardless, I don't care what someone says out there, there's no clay lube in the world that's going to prevent the marring or the micro scratching or the abrading of your paint if you have to rub it hard enough or long enough. And once again, there's so many moving parts to that. How hard are you rubbing? How many times are you rubbing? What are the contaminants that you're removing? Because they're not all created equally. They are, in fact, unique. So you just don't know. So when someone makes a blanket statement that says, oh, I would never use water as a clay lube because you're going to scratch your paint. Well, maybe, but guess what? I don't care what magical lube that you pick. If you've got the right situation, you're still going to abrade your paint. But that's the trade-off. Everything in life has them. Trust me, I know. They irritate me also. But everything in life has them. So there's a trade-off for you. Do you want a texture to your paint? Do you want to hear your paint? I know I don't. So I would rather accept that there's going to be a little abrasions introduced into the equation by using one of these. But I'm also going to have very silky, smooth paint. And also, if the paint is a different color than the paint of my car, I don't want to see those little specks of overspray on my paint. So that's where the trade-off comes. And if you do abrasions or create abrasions or micro marring on your paint, well, then you polish your paint afterwards. And you can always check the links below because I'm going to take you to some pages of my website that will show you how do you polish a car if you're an absolute beginner? How do you get rid of those micro marring or those abrasions introduced into the equation if you had to rub hard enough and long enough with one of these tools in order to remove the contaminants or the paint overspray off your car? Let me just add one more little sidebar, which is glass. Glass is a unique animal. I should clarify that, a unique material. Why is that? Well, because it is harder than most other material on your car. So you can use a razor blade. So let's say your car has just been annihilated with paint overspray and you're just getting tired of rubbing back and forth with one of these clay bars. So therefore, you could default to a razor blade on your glass. Now, personally, I've never scratched the glass using a razor blade. Is it possible to do it? Probably. I'm sure there's some moron out there that could figure out a way to do it. I just have never had the problem. It's a very fast and effective way in which to remove the overspray from your glass. You use it in the same way, meaning you need some kind of lubricant as a rule in order, and I'll just let you hear it. Hear that? That's the overspray on my front windshield. I do not want it on my front windshield. So this is a way to remove it a little quicker than the clay bar. But it also represents, wait for it, the trade-off, certain risk. So if you get a little hasty with it and now you just jab it into like the molding of your car window or some other area that's unwanted that will actually will incur damage when you impale it with this thing, that's the trade-off. So only you can decide in your world based on your experience and what materials you have or tools as to what's going to work in your world. So with that said, in, I don't know, 15,000 words or less, there's my more comprehensive tutorial on paint overspray. You will find that it is what appears to be a very simplistic problem, but can become very complex very easily. So many of you will watch maybe the part one and you'll bounce immediately to your car, you'll get yourself a clay bar, and then you're working away, and then someone's gonna lob a question like, oh, Darren, can I use the clay bar on glass? Yes, you can. Oh, Darren, can I use it on plastic? Well, you can if it works, as in you can slide it back and forth. Oh, Darren, can I do this? So for every question that I answer, I always know that there's going to be like 2 or 3 questions or subsequent questions that will be lobbed back into my court, which then I'll attempt to lob an answer back into the other court, which then will introduce yet another question and back and forth. So pretty much any subject can get complex pretty quickly, pretty easily. With that said, leave your comments below. Give it a thumbs up. I'd like to know, did you learn even just one thing? Maybe I offered a tip that you didn't think about. Maybe I clarified something that you didn't think about, or a misnomer that you've heard spreading around the internet. Kind of like never go in circular patterns, always go back and forth or up and down, because those scratches are easier to remove than a circular pattern, which we have now learned is complete BS. Okay, with that said, we'll see you on the next video.